Amongst all the discussion surrounding the most recent 3D Sonic games, Sonic Forces, there's one fact I often hear brought up as an explanation of why the game's reception was so underwhelming. Only 3 level designers were credited, with 2 of them having no prior experience with Sonic levels. While level design is an important part of any platformer, it's not exactly the only issue I had with Forces. This had me wondering how the rest of Sonic Forces dev team stacks up compared to previous 3D Sonic games. With the power of Moby games, I could figure out just that, and I found some fascinating results. Before we continue, Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, the Wii PS2 version of Sonic Unleashed, and the 3DS version of Sonic Lost World are excluded here due to their development largely being handled by Big Red Button or DIMS and not the core Sonic team. So first is the producer, Shun Nakamura. He was previously the producer for Rhythm Thief and The Emperor's Treasure, and basically nothing else. But he was the director for Samba de Amigo and Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. Takashi Iizuka in this game is credited as the Sonic series producer. His previous experience as a producer includes Knight's Journey of Dreams, Sonic 4 Episode 1 and Episode 2, Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, Sonic Lost World, Sonic Runners, and Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. He was also the director for Sonic Jam, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, and Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games. Sonic Forces' director and lead game designer is Morio Kishimoto. He previously was the director for Sonic Colors and Sonic Lost World, and was the lead game designer for Sonic and the Secret Rings, Sonic and the Black Knight, and Sonic Colors. Now let's move on to the art department. The art director was Yoshitaka Miura. I hope I pronounced that correctly. This person's previous art experience includes being the senior field artist for Field of Magic XY/XX, and being a standard field artist for Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, and Sonic Heroes, and Sonic Generations, and Sonic Lost World. And this person was also the art director for Sonic and the Secret Rings, and Sonic and the Black Knight, and the field art director for Sonic Colors. From what I can infer, the role of a field artist is to either do modeling or concept art for the game's levels, and I think it says something when people are still calling Sonic Unleashed the best looking Sonic game in the year 2020. So how did Forces stack up in terms of number of field artists? Sonic Adventure had 7 lead field artists, 13 standard field artists, and 8 on-field art support. Sonic Adventure 2 had 1 field art director and 4 standard field artists. They also had 1 lead Chow artist and 2 Chow artists. Sonic Heroes had 1 field art director and 4 standard field artists, and 2 special stage artists. Shadow the Hedgehog had 1 field art director and 3 field artists, and 6 non-field artists. Oh, but here's where things get good. Sonic 06 had 21 field artists, Secret Rings had 1 field art director and 11 field artists, Sonic Unleashed had 1 lead field artist and 22 standard field artists, Black Knight had 7 level artists, Sonic Colors had 1 lead field artist and 14 standard field artists, Sonic Generations had 1 lead stage artist and 19 standard stage artists, Sonic Lost World had 15 field artists, and Sonic Forces had 14 field artists. Now on to the character artists. Strangely enough, I couldn't find anything here for anything prior to 06, aside from Adventure 2, which had like 2 player character designers, but that might not be the same thing. Anyways, Sonic 06 had 7 character artists, Unleashed had 1 lead character artist and 1 standard character artist, Sonic and the Black Knight had 3 character artists, Sonic Colors had 1 lead character artist and 4 standard character artists, Sonic Generations had 1 lead character artist and 5 standard character artists, Sonic Lost World had 5 standard character artists, and Sonic Forces had 6 standard character artists. Remember how for Forces they just didn't give Sonic an idle animation? What was up with that? Well, let's look at the animator count. Sonic Adventure had 2 character motion design. Sonic Adventure 2 had nothing in terms of animation. It might have just been all mocap. Sonic Heroes had 1 player motion design. Shadow the Hedgehog had 1 motion designer. Sonic 06 had 4 motion artists. Secret Rings had 2 motion artists. Sonic Unleashed had 2 lead character animators and 5 standard character animators. Sonic and the Black Knight had 1 motion artist. Sonic Colors had 1 lead character animator and 3 standard character animators. Sonic Generations had 1 lead character animator and 3 standard character animators. Again, Lost World just had the 3 character animators, and Forces only had 2 character animators. Special effects aren't really the most important part of any video game, but some of Forces can look kinda gaudy. So how has the visual effects artist team through the years? Well, Sonic Adventure 1 had 1 visual effects designer and 1 visual effects support. Sonic Adventure 2 to Shadow the Hedgehog didn't really have any designated visual effects artists. Sonic 06 had 3, Sonic Unleashed had 1 lead and 2 standard, Sonic Colors had 2, Secret Rings and Black Knight both had 1 effect CG, which I guess is supposed to be visual effects. Generations had 1 lead SFX and 1 standard SFX. Lost World had 3 visual effects artists, and Forces had 1. Next up is the menus and HUD artist count. There was nothing here for the adventure games or Shadow the Hedgehog, but Sonic Heroes actually had 3 menu screen artists. Sonic 06 had only 1 menu screen artist, Secret Rings had 1 lead interface CG and 2 standard interface CG, Sonic Unleashed had 1 menu and HUD artist, Black Knight had 1 interface CG, Sonic Colors had 2 menu and HUD artists, Sonic Generations had 1 lead UI artist, 1 standard UI artist, and 1 UI concept. Sonic Lost World had 2 menu and HUD artists, and Sonic Forces had 3 menu and HUD artists. Now let's look at the cutscene artist count. In-game cutscenes have never really been Sonic's strong suit, and I can't say Forces is an exception here. With that said, in terms of numbers, how does it stack up to other games in the series? Well, Sonic Adventure has 1 story event director, 1 story event coordinator, 3 event scene editors, 1 story sequence programmer, 2 story event programmers, and 2 event motion designers. Sonic Adventure 2 has 1 lead event artist and 4 event scene artists. Heroes has only 1 event scene artist, Shadow the Hedgehog has 1 event scene director, Sonic 06 has 7 event scene artists, Sonic and the Secret Rings has 3 event scene support, Sonic Unleashed has 1 lead cutscene artist and 10 standard cutscene artists, Sonic and the Black Knight has 2 cutscene artists, Sonic Colors has 1 lead cutscene artist and 3 standard cutscene artists, Sonic Generations has 1 lead cutscene artist and 3 standard cutscene artists, Lost World has only 4 cutscene artists, and Forces has 6 cutscene artists. Let's round out the art department with the title logo designer. Taro Hino previously did the title logo design for Sonic Lost World and Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure. That's all the art staff out of the way, so let's move on to the gameplay staff. The lead programmer is Hiroki Tokunaga, whose previous programming experience includes Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, Sonic Generations, and Sonic Lost World. Now on to the number of programmers. Sonic Adventure had 5 player character programmers, 4 lead field programmers, one of which was shared with the player character programmers, 6 standard field programmers, 1 chaos programmer, and 1 enemy programmer, which makes, I think, around 16 total programmers. Sonic Adventure 2 had 1 player character programmer, 4 standard programmers, 1 lead Chow programmer, and 1 standard Chow programmer. That makes about 7 programmers in total. Sonic Heroes had 1 player programmer, 3 stage programmers, 4 enemy programmers, 2 of which were from player and stage, and 3 special stage programmers. That makes about 9 programmers in total. Shadow the Hedgehog had 1 lead programmer, 3 senior programmers, and 4 standard programmers. Sonic 06 had 2 chief programmers and 17 standard programmers. Sonic and the Secret Rings had 2 player character, 4 stage, 2 enemy, and 3 menu. Sonic Unleashed had 2 lead, 2 player, 4 enemy, 2 object, 6 boss, one of which was shared with enemy, 2 village, 1 sequence, 1 menu and HUD, 1 tornado minigame, 2 shader, and 3 development support. That makes around 20 to 25 total programmers. Sonic and the Black Knight had 3 technical, 4 character, 3 level, and 2 interface. That makes about 12 in total. Sonic Colors had 1 lead character, 2 standard character, 3 game, one of which was shared with character, 1 lead enemy, 3 enemy, 2 menu and HUD, and 1 graphics, which is around 12 total. There may have been other categories, but they were shared with the categories I just mentioned. Sonic Generations had 1 lead gameplay, 7 gameplay, 1 lead system, and 5 system. Sonic Lost World had 10 gameplay, 1 system, 3 graphics, and 1... I don't know what that's supposed to be. Sonic Forces had 8 gameplay programmers and 14 Hedgehog engine programmers. The lead planner was Takayuki Okada, whose previous experience includes being a designer for Secret Rings, Unleashed, Cars, Generations, Lost World, and Runners. This person was also the
Insufficient data. Oh no!
Curiously, I could only find planners for a couple other Sonic games. Sonic Unleashed, which had 1 lead planner and 3 village planners, and Sonic Colors, which had 1 lead planner and 5 general planners. Sonic Forces had 1 lead planner and 3 general planners. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the design team. This is one of the most commonly cited catalysts in Force's failure, but how did it stack up to other games in the series? Well, the first thing I want to mention is that lead level designer Junpei Outsu, contrary to popular belief, actually had more experience with Sonic games than just Sonic Lost World. He was also a game designer for Sonic and the Secret Rings, Puyo Puyo 15th Anniversary, Sonic and the Black Knight, and Sonic Runners, and was cited as a level designer in Sonic Lost World, as well as a planner for Dragon Ball Z, Super Sonic Warriors 2, and Sonic Colors. Now, Sonic Lost World is the only game where he's cited as being a level designer, however, Sonic and the Secret Rings and Sonic and the Black Knight don't really include a level designer in their credits, just game designers. While the other two don't have much experience with mainline Sonic titles, Shoko Kamiya also did Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Games, and Yuya Situgawa did The Last Guardian. So what about the actual number of designers? Sonic Adventure had 5 field designers, 2 chaos designers, 3 enemy game designers, 3 enemy character designers, and 2 A-Life designers. Some of those categories are shared with the others, but there are at least 5 designers in total. Sonic Adventure 2 had 2 field designers and 2 enemy character designers. Sonic Heroes had 2 level designers, 1 special stage designer, 1 enemy game designer, and 1 enemy designer. Shadow the Hedgehog had 1 lead game designer and 4 standard game designers. Sonic 06 had 2 chief game and 6 game. Sonic and the Secret Rings had 7 game designers, 1 party mode lead game designer, and 4 party game level designers. Sonic Unleashed had 3 for the daytime levels, 3 for the nighttime levels, and 1 for bosses. Sonic and the Black Knight had 7 game designers. Sonic Colors had 1 lead level and 5 level. Sonic Generations had 1 lead game and 7 game. Sonic Lost World had 7 level. And Forces only had 1 lead level designer and 2 standard level designers. Finally, the writer for the Japanese story and script was Aitaro Toyoda. His previous writing experience includes being the scenario supervisor for Sonic Freeriders and doing the scenario events for Utakumi 575. He has plenty of design experience under his belt though. So what have we learned from all this? Well, for one thing, Sonic Adventure's staff was surprisingly beefy compared to the staff for Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, and Shadow the Hedgehog. But the staff number seemed to drastically increase for Sonic 06, and that wasn't even the whole original team. Part of it was split off to make Secret Rings. Dang. There were fewer field artists, character animators, and visual effects artists for Forces than any 3D Sonic game in the 7th and 8th generation, aside from the storybook titles. The number of character artists was pretty substantial, only outdone by Sonic 06. Same with the HUD and UI, which ties with Heroes, Secret Rings, and Generations for having the most. And cutscene artists, which is only outdone by 06, Unleashed, and possibly Sonic Adventure. Sonic Forces actually had a lot of Hedgehog engine programmers, but that's the lighting engine. The actual gameplay programming team was smaller than the one for Sonic Adventure, Sonic Heroes, 06, Unleashed Colors, and Lost World. Not to mention that, as if the small level design team wasn't enough, there's no one else credited for any sort of gameplay design aside from the lead game designer, who is the same person as the director. This means there were no designated enemy designers or boss designers, and the design team is quite possibly even smaller than it was for Adventure 2, Heroes, and Shadow. Don't quote me on this. To be fair though, Forces did have people credited as planners, a trait only shared with Unleashed and Colors. Overall, while Forces' dev team was much larger in the graphics department than the teams for Adventure 2, Heroes, and Shadow, it was around the same in terms of programming and design. Compared to every other game though, aside from the storybook titles, Forces' team is probably the all-around smallest yet. Personally, I suspect that this might be one reason why some people are rather pessimistic for the next Sonic game, despite Sega stating that they will be giving future games more time in the oven. In my experience, a bad game typically isn't bad because of one major problem, but several problems compounded onto each other, and this might even apply to game development. To my knowledge, Forces wasn't given any more than 2 years of actual gameplay development, but that was only part of the problem. As I've explained here, it also seems to have been plagued by a development team that was smaller than it should have been, which is an issue that could easily continue in the future. I don't want the next game to suffer because of a smaller dev team, especially considering how many people want the next game to be bigger than most recent Sonic games have been. However, I also don't want to act like a smaller dev team is an automatic condemnation for any game, especially considering how small the team was during the 6th console generation. Another issue that seemingly harmed Forces was an incoherent vision, but now that people are agreeing that the next game should try to be a quality experience above all else, Sega and Sonic Team might finally realize that pandering to all different sections of the fanbase at once, or people who don't even like Sonic games, isn't what they should be doing. I'm sure Sega and Sonic Team have learned something from Forces' failure, but I can only hope that this means they'll do better next time.